It's time to pack the bags and hit the road as the Carolina Hurricanes start a 6-game, 12-day road trip that features the Midwest, Western Canada, and the Pacific Northwest. How are they going to do? And what we should be looking forward to in the Penguins Blues games this weekend for a back-to-back for your Carolina Hurricanes.
Your Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the everydayer for making this your first listen of the day. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I'm the credentialed Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I'm also doing a column on the Chicago Wolves called a Wolves Weekly. I am the co-host of the Searchcast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a fun show for you guys on this Friday episode as we get to overview the 6 games in 12 days for the Carolina State Fair road trip for the Hurricanes. Not going to preview all 6, but just talk about where they're going to be playing and what days they're going to be going on for. But we are going to preview the Penguins and the Blues games as it will be a back-to-back on Friday and Saturday for your Carolina Hurricanes. But before we jump into all of that, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So like I said, the Carolina Hurricanes start their 6-game road trip over the next 12 days as they left on Thursday afternoon after practice to go on the road since the North Carolina State Fair is in town. Of course, this happens every year. And instead of going to Western California, instead of going out to California for the West Coast trip, it's the Western Canada part, which we saw a little bit later into like the back part of the 2023-24 season, mostly towards the end of 23. But they're getting the Western Canada portion out of the way. Of course, they're going to make a couple quick stops on the way out there in Pittsburgh and in St. Louis. So for the overall schedule, you got the Pittsburgh Penguins tonight on Friday at 7 o'clock. And you got St. Louis on the 19th. Then they get a couple days off where they're going to play the Edmonton Oilers on Tuesday the 22nd. And then they got days off in between before they have Calgary on the 24th. And the Seattle Kraken on Saturday the 26th. And then they're going to finish off with the Vancouver Canucks on Monday the 28th. So you are going to have games every other day after their 2-day break from their back-to-back against Pittsburgh and St. Louis. Like I said, they're going to Alberta, face Edmonton, Calgary, and then it's the Pacific Northwest across the border to Seattle before they go back over the border one more time to face the Vancouver Canucks. And, of course, later that week they will be playing the Boston Bruins on Halloween to end the month of October. But right now we're just going to focus on the 6 games. And like I said, we're not going to do all 6 games. It's just kind of these are the teams they're going to be facing on. And of course, it's going to be very interesting for the fact that the Flames are undefeated right now. The Oilers just won, and you're trying to look and see how the Kraken are going to be, and can Vancouver finally figure it out as well. And now you're going into a situation where you got the Pittsburgh Penguins, who have been a little bit up and down, but a team that you should never take light, especially with Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, and all of them. Like I said, we'll talk more about Pittsburgh and St. Louis later on in a preview, but at least for the most part, when you're talking with the Carolina Hurricanes and this road trip, at least it's a good thing that you're finally getting this long trip out of the way now, especially to Western Canada. I know a lot of people, if you listen to the Canes Cast with Mike and Shane, it was one of those things where a lot of people were kind of worried because of how it went last year. Yeah, the Western Canada trip didn't go well, where they went 0 for 4, blew the game against the Calgary Flames, came back in the game against Vancouver, but lost. Did have that players only meeting before they went over to Eastern Canada, play the Ottawa Senators, and then started an absolute tear for the rest of December throughout the rest of the season. After that, after a really slow start, especially in Western Canada, and even the California trip itself as well. So I know a lot of people are apprehensive about how this is going to go for the Carolina State Fair, but I mean, it's a thing they have to do every year. And I don't know. I think with this team, it's good to have a bonding trip out of the way now, so especially for the new guys like Sean Walker and William Carrier and Jackson Blake, who is new-ish and stuff like that. It's a good opportunity for these guys to get to know each other, bond really well. And like I said, you're gone for the next 12 days. So you're going to have a lot of time just hanging out on the playing the hotel rooms and stuff like that in between games and all of that. And plus, like I said, even after the back-to-back against, Pittsburgh and St. Louis, you got 2 days in between before you face the Edmonton Oilers in Alberta. So you might have a little bit of time to go, relax, check some stuff out, do your morning skates, practices, and stuff like that. But that'll be a good bonding experience for these guys. And it's really something to keep an eye on, too, just how they go as a group. So it's good to have your road trips out of the way early, to, like I said, get together as a group, bond, be able to be comfortable with each other and stuff like that. It'll be interesting to see how the team does. Overall, I do believe that we should see a good amount of points from this team. I would not be surprised if we come home with 8. That would be great if they're able to come home with 8 points. You will take that. That'll be a great trip. You come home with 4 wins, or 3 wins and a combination of some overtime losses, however that works out. But it should be really fun to see how this team does, especially with the fact that you're taking some. A lot of people thought the Edmonton Oilers are going to go win the Stanley Cup. They're kind of struggling. The Flames, who a lot of people didn't really thought they were going to do very much, they're on a really red-hot start, no pun intended. And then, of course, you look at the Vancouver Canucks, who a lot of people consider really highly as well. And that's, throwing in a wild card of a Seattle Kraken team. So I think overall it should be a very interesting trip for the Carolina Hurricanes. But at least luckily, instead of just going straight from Carolina to the West Coast, you have a nice little – you go to Pittsburgh, get the Eastern Conference game out of the way before you go deal with the Western Conference for 5 of the 6 games. Like I said, you kind of start in St. Louis before you head up to Canada. So you do have a nice, like I said, a nice little back-to-back. It's kind of it's one of those things where you have to you play Friday night, you gotta jump on a plane and fly to St. Louis. Luckily, it's not too far away. But yeah, you get 2 U.S. games out of the way. Like I said, one Eastern Conference, one Western Conference before you head to Canada. So it should be, Canada and Pacific Northwest. But like I said, I'm just hoping, I'm optimistic that this Western Canada trip is going to be a lot better than it was last year. Yes, it's not the same team as you're facing because you don't get to play the Winnipeg Jets this time. But I think overall it's a good opportunity for the Canes to make something out of this road trip to where, they had a slow start. They've only played 2 games. Everyone else has played at least, 4 or more. But it gives you the opportunity to see where your measuring stick is early on with a lot of teams that people consider to be playoff hopefuls or playoff teams and maybe even cup contenders. You look at, the Vancouver Canucks. A lot of people think they're going to be, cup contenders or definitely making the playoffs. A lot of people predicted the Edmonton Oilers to win the Stanley Cup this year after, losing to Florida last year. So that's another measuring stick game, despite, how their record is to start the season. Calgary, Calgary is one of those teams where maybe it could be a middle of the road team, but right now like I said, they're really hot. How is St. Louis going to be? Like I said, they did pick up some guys in the offseason through waivers from Edmonton. How are they going to play? And a lot of people are kind of, they don't know how to think of the Pittsburgh Penguins because, lose opening night pretty badly to the Rangers, but come back and put up 6 goals of your own. And, they're a team like that is Sidney Crosby scored. He got his 1600th point, and Evgeny Malkin, he's, 500, getting 500, just creating some milestones of himself. So I would not, like I said, I would not take lightly of the Pittsburgh Penguins at all. Those are one of those teams that you just don't want to kind of look at and be like, oh, it's not that serious. Like, well, should be fine and stuff like that. No, that's the Penguins and just everything overall with, just how this is going to be is definitely not something you want to overlook if you're the Carolina Hurricanes. But I think this is going to be a very fun trip overall for the team just to see how they do and stuff like that. Like I said, 6 games in 12 days. Luckily you got the back-to-back starting Friday, Saturday. Then you got 2 days off. Then you got every other game going from that Tuesday against Edmonton until the following Monday against the Vancouver Canucks. And I find it very interesting, too, for the fact that I'm kind of surprised they wouldn't do just like Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and then finish in Seattle instead of having to deal with going jumping back into the States and going right back into Canada. You would think like it would be, let's just get all the Canadian teams out of the way first, go down to Seattle, finish in Seattle, then come back east. So it's very fascinating when you look at that, where it's we're gonna go play Alberta, then go to the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, then jump right back over into Vancouver. But that's very, very interesting to look at for sure. Looking at the quick standings real quick for the Carolina Hurricanes before they go into this road trip, they do sit last in the division with a win and a loss for 2 points, but they've only played 2 games. Philadelphia's played 3, Washington's played 3. Columbus just won tonight, so they're now 2-2. The Islanders are 1-1-2. And, the Pittsburgh Penguins have played 5 games, and the New Jersey Devils have played 7. So, while Carolina is technically last in the division, they've played 2 games compared to a lot of the teams who've either played 4, 5, or 7, where there's a couple other teams that have only played 3. And looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins, like I said, they are third in the division right now. They are 3-2 at 6 points, after playing 5 games. So like I said, despite that opening night loss, they are a -1 in goal differential, but they're third in the division as of right now on Thursday night going into the Friday game. Then looking at St. Louis, they are right now 3-2-0 after 5 games for 6 points. They are sitting tied for third in the division with the Winnipeg Jets at 6, along with the Minnesota Wild. Then heading over to the Pacific Division, where the Edmonton Oilers are actually 2-3 after 5 games. They got 4 points. The Vancouver Canucks are 1-1-2 for 4 points after 4 games. And then even the Seattle Kraken are 2-2 with 4 points in 4 games. And the Calgary Flames, as of right now, lead the Pacific Division with a perfect 4-0 record for 8 points. So as of right now on Thursday night, that's where you're looking in terms of your road trip with, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, then with Edmonton, Calgary, Vancouver, and the Seattle Kraken. So that's kind of summarizing what we're looking forward to in terms of the 6 games in 12 days. And we'll do a lot more previews for the other games as we go out through this road trip. But for this episode, it's just hey, I'm going to predict they're going to get 8 points and stuff like that. But as we go through the week, I'll let you know what games they're going to win and what my predictions are going to be. But stick around for segment 2 as we will be previewing the Pittsburgh Penguins game. And then segment 3, it will be predicting, or more so previewing, the St. Louis Blues. So stick around as we will be previewing the Pittsburgh Penguins Friday night game here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money and sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in award winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on the least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with PrizePicks. Now with PrizePicks, it puts the members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money as quick as 15 minutes. PrizePicks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, PrizePicks discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. And PrizePicks is the best way to win real money this football season. Which players are going off, which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds to turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on PrizePicks. What I like about PrizePicks is the fact that I can go look at games of maybe, how's Justin Jefferson going to do? Is he going to get 83.5 receiving yards, or is Patrick Mahomes is he going to pass for more or less than 267? Or maybe, is Saquon Barkley going to rush 65.5 yards or more, more or less? Or, will Josh Allen pass for over 300 yards or less? But when you download the app today, you can use code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Once again, use the code LOCKEDONAHL to get $50 off instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Or you can play these lineups and get $50 instantly. Well, you can do this at PrizePicks, where you can run your game. Welcome back to a segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So the Carolina Hurricanes go into Friday night to play the Pittsburgh Penguins in Pittsburgh at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it's actually going to be on Bally Sports or also on the NHL Network. So it's going to be very interesting to see how that works out in terms of how people are going to be able to watch the game. Because like I said, it's going to be on Bally, but it's also going to be on NHL Network, so make sure to keep that in mind if you're going to try to watch the game. Also, make sure to check it out on 99.9 The Fan, so you can listen to Mike and Trippy if you're able to watch the game on TV. At least you can hear them call the game on the radio side of things as always. Now, looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins lines, and as of right now, per daily faceoff, they got Anthony Beauvillier, Sidney Crosby, and Brian Russ on that top line, followed by Michael Bunting, Evgeny Malkin, and Rickard Rakell. And Rakell's been on an absolute fire as of late for the Penguins. Joe Connor, Lars Eller, and Jesse Puljujarvi, of course, former Hurricane. You got Kevin Hayes, Cody Glass, and Nola Chari as your bottom line. Looking at the defense, you got Matt Grzelcyk, Chris Letang, and then Marcus Peterson, Erik Karlsson, and then Ryan Graves along with Jack St. Ivany. Power play units for the Pittsburgh Penguins, you got Rust, Crosby, Malkin, along with Karlsson and Letang. Talk about a very heavy first power play unit. And then on the second power play unit, you got Bunting, Lars Eller with Rakell, Hayes, and Grzelcyk. And looking at the penalty kills real quick, Achari, O'Connor, Pedersen, Letang for your first penalty kill unit. And then you got Lars Eller, Cody Glass, Grzelcyk, and St. Ivany. And then looking at the goaltenders, you got Tristan Jarry, who's been kind of iffy so far for the Penguins. And I know a lot of Penguins fans are kind of worried about that, especially after his 5-year contract extension. And then you got Joel Blomqvist being his backup. And as of right now on the IR, Alex Nedeljkovic is out, along with Blake Lizotte and Matthew Nieto. And like I said, in terms of the standings, as of right now on Thursday night, the Pittsburgh Penguins are 3-2. They are a -1 in the goal differential. They scored 20 goals, giving up 21. They are 2-1-0 on the road, and they've won their last 2 games. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Carolina Hurricanes stack up against the Pittsburgh Penguins. But honestly, I think overall with how the game on Tuesday, when they came out really on fire against the New Jersey Devils, really looked like it was an actual Hurricanes game. They were ready right off the jump. You could tell that their forecheck was a lot stronger. They were able to play their game and what they could do overall. And I think just taking that momentum from that game, I think it should be something that should be, exciting for the Hurricanes fans, and also just being able to go into that game and feel pretty good, even against the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know I said when I previewed Tuesday's episode, like who I think should be in net, I said it should be Pyotr Kochetkov because you don't want him to sit for almost 2 weeks without playing. Luckily, he did played phenomenally as, of course, saved 23 of 25. For me, of who I want to see in goal for the Hurricanes, I would love that, because I think for the road trip, I think you should see at least 3 games from both goalies in Frederik Andersen and Pyotr Kochetkov. I would say if you want to run with Piotr once again after Tuesday's game against New Jersey, you could play him against Pittsburgh. I mean, Freddie Anderson's already been waiting a week since last Friday's game for the home opener. Him playing Friday or Saturday, I don't think it's really going to matter for how long he sits. It's just one of those things of which goal you want to go with first. I would say go with Piotr for the Friday night game against Pittsburgh. Make him go back-to-back games, even though there was some days off, a couple days off in between. And then you just go with Frederik Andersen for Saturday night against St. Louis, and then figure it out as you go for the Western Canada and the Seattle game. But I think for the Hurricanes and goaltending, I think I would love to go back with Piotr just to ride his hot hand, because he played very, very well. Yes, he gave up a couple goals, but overall he played a phenomenal game. I think it's one where, let's just see what he can do again. Can he do it against Pittsburgh? Because he's done pretty well against Pittsburgh, all things considered, over the last couple of years. And I think it would be a great, measuring stick game for him to start this season as well, especially with how good Malkin and Crosby's been so far for the Penguins. Now, in terms of the Carolina Hurricanes, I don't really see very much changing over over the last couple of games. As of right now, you got Svechnikov, Aho Jarvis, along with Roslovic, Kotkaniemi, and Martin Necas, and then Martinook, Jordan Stahl, and William Carey, which have been a very solid shutdown third line. And Shane Willis has said it perfectly. You don't want to go over the boards against these 3 guys, because they will absolutely put it to you, and that's just exactly what they've done. 3 huge bodies, guys who can, fight for the puck battles, really make it tough for you to try to carry the puck into the zone or just have it in general. They're very heavy hitters and ones you should be looking out for. And then, of course, you got Eric Robinson, Jack Drury, and Jackson Blake. And, of course, Jackson Blake scored his first NHL goal back on Tuesday. Great goal by him. Him and Robinson have been playing very well together. I think Robinson has really shown his versatility on the PK and just being someone who's got some sneaky speed and can produce, chances very well. So I'm really liking the addition of Robinson and putting him on that fourth line with Drury and Jackson Blake. Of course, defensive pairing is not really surprising. Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns, along with Shane Gostisbehere, scored his first goal of the season, along with Sean Walker, Dmitry Orlov, and Jalen Chatfield. First power play unit, Seth Jarvis, Sebastian Aho, along with Martin Necas, Svechnikov, and Gostisbehere. Second power play unit, you got Blake, Drury, and Roslovic, along with Kotkaniemi and Brent Burns. Pillow kill units, Jordan Stahl, Jordan Martin, no surprise there, with Jacob Slavin and Brent Burns. And then you got Aho, Jarvis, Chatfield, and Sean Walker. And, of course, the goalies of Frederick Anderson and Pyotr Chekhov. And in terms of injuries, Jesper Fast is out for the whole season with his neck surgery. Still wishing that the best for Jesper Fast. In terms of the rest of the roster, there's really no extra scratches left for the Carolina Hurricanes because you did send Joakim Ryan down, and then you also send Brandon Lemieux down. He did clear waivers on Thursday afternoon, so he's official with the Chicago Wolves. And as of right now, unless they activate Riley Stillman, there is no healthy scratches on this team. Your roster is your guys. That's who you got. You literally have your forwards and your defensemen and your 2 goalies. Unless they're going to call someone up or something else happens, there's no one in the press box for the Canes outside of maybe Riley Stillman if he travels with the team. He's still technically he is in a no contact jersey, but I still don't think he's officially cleared yet to play games. So I would say they're probably going to take Riley Stillman on the trip just in case something happens to where he could become activated. And then here's your lone healthy scratch or your 7th defenseman. But in terms of the forwards, there is no forward. That's your roster. Those 12 guys I listed, that's your forward core. There's no one coming in to back them up unless something happens. You got to recall someone on the fly from Chicago. So it'll be very interesting to see how it works out for the Hurricanes over the next 12 days with a 6-game road trip to where you might have a 7th defenseman ready to go in Riley Stillman, and that's it for your scratches. You got to hope all your guys stay healthy, and that's all I can really say about that. But like I said, Friday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins, the game is going to be at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be on NHL Network and Bally Sports, and also make sure to check it out on 99.9 The Fan. Now, that's the Pittsburgh Penguins. We are going to preview the St. Louis Blues game, so stick around as we'll go over that here in a second on a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Where can you do that? Well, you can do that at FanDuel.com. Gametime is a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. And we're not talking about sports. We're talking about concerts, comedy theaters, and so much more. So if there's a Broadway play you want to go check out, Gametime can help you out with that. If there's a certain movie that's coming out you want to check out, they can do that too. And also, if you're looking to get some Canes tickets either on the road or at home at Lenovo Center, well, Gametime can do that for you as well. And Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. The one feature I really like is their seat viewfinder, which is a panoramic view that you get from your seat in the app before you buy. So without having to worry about obstructive views or awkward angles, you'll know what you're going to be seeing from your seat with that panoramic view feature. And another feature you need to really check out is their all-in pricing. And this is where you must turn on this toggle feature, which does feature the shows of your total up front. So you know what your ticket price is going to be before you even get to the checkout. So you basically know what your ticket and your fee is up front for this all-in pricing. But make sure you have to turn on this feature to get sure to get it toggled to show it before you even get to your checkout. Because let's be honest, we all want to take the guesswork out of buying tickets, and you can do that with Gametime. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and enter code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Well, I mean, obviously, it's game time. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. For this last segment, we are going to be previewing the St. Louis Blues game. But of course, guys, I have to rewind real quick. I forgot to mention for the Pittsburgh Penguins game, I do see the Hurricanes win this game. I do think they're going to beat the Pittsburgh Penguins. They're going to get their second win of the season. So chalk up another W for your Carolina Hurricanes. It will be a back-to-back wins going against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Now, going into the game against the St. Louis Blues, they are sitting, as of right now, tied for third in the Central Division with the Jets and the Wild, but the Blues have played one more game than Minnesota and then two more against the Winnipeg Jets, but they do have 6 points on the season. They are a -1 goal differential, scored 13, give up 14. They're 3-2-0 with 6 points. 2-1 on the road, 1-1 at home, and they have won one game on their current streak. Now, looking at their roster, you got Brendan Saad, Robert Thomas, and Jordan Kyrou as your top line, along with Zach Bolduc, Pavel Buchnevich, and Jake Neighbors on your second line. Then they got Dylan Holloway, the guy they claimed with the Edmonton Oilers earlier this summer, and then Braden Shen and Matthew Joseph. Then they got Alexei Topochenko, Radek Foska, and Kasperi Kapanen. Foska is a former Dallas Star, and Kasperi Kapanen, former Toronto Maple Leaf. And then on the defense, former Minnesota Wild Ryan Suter, along with Colton Parayko. And then you got Philip Broberg, the other Edmonton Oiler that got claimed off of waivers along with Broberg, or along with Holloway. And then you got former Carolina Hurricane Justin Falk, as always. And then you got Pierre-Olivier Joseph, and then Matthew Kessel to round out your defensive core. I will say the overall top four of this defense can be very interesting to see how it works out, especially Colin Parayko, along with Broberg and Falk. I'm kind of iffy on Ryan Suter still. I'm not sure how he's going to do since he's been bought out by two different teams. And that's your top left defenseman. Not sure it's going to work out, but definitely want to keep an eye out for Colin Parayko, Broberg, and Justin Falk, at least for the defense. Looking at the first power play unit, you got Neighbors, Buchnevich, Thomas, along with Falk and Kyrou. And then on the second power play unit, you got Holloway, Shen, and Saad, along with Bolduc and Broberg. So you just got the two Edmonton Oilers guys on the second power play unit. First penalty kill unit, you got Thomas and Buchnevich, along with Ryan Suter and Colin Parayko. And then on the second unit, you got Foska with Topochenko, Broberg, and Justin Falk. And then in terms of goalies, you got the tandem of Joel Hofer and Jordan Binnington. I'm curious to see what the Blues are going to roll out with in terms of if we're going to get Binnington or Hofer in that game. And then on the IR, they got Alexander Texier on IR, along with Oscar Sundquist and Torrey Krug. And then Nick Leddy is day to day. Now, with the St. Louis Blues, of course, like I said, if you're going to go with Pierre Kachek, I would say you would go with Pierre Kachekov against Pittsburgh. Go back-to-back with him, ride the hot hand, and then go with to Freddie Anderson against the St. Louis Blues. But, if the Hurricanes have said, okay, hey, Freddie hasn't played in a week, let's just go every other game with these guys to start the road trip for a back-to-back, I could see them definitely go with Freddie in game 1 against Pittsburgh, and then you got Pierre Kachekov in game 2 against the Blues. And that would be really something where you have possibly Jordan Binnington on one side and Pierre Kachekov on the other. Like, those two guys are not afraid to let the other team know how they feel about them, But at least with, Pierre Kachekov, he's going to be tripping at the guy that he has beef with and not the backup goaltender like Jordan Binnington has, where he's mainly going after the backup. But either way, I think it's going to be a very interesting matchup with these two teams. Of course, like I said, the Blues have played 5 games compared to the Hurricanes 2. They are 3-2. Goal differentials a -1. I would say right now, my main concern is for the Blues is how is that defense going to stack up? Like I said, with Ryan Suter, a guy who's been bought out twice. How's Matthew Kessler going to be with Olivier? How is he going to be with Joseph? Then the guys on the defense, I'm more, going to keep an eye on for sure is Parayko, Falk, and Broberg, just because of how they've been. Broberg was just in the Stanley Cup final. Of course, you never want to overlook Colin Parayko And of course, we know what Justin Falk can do as members of the Carolina Hurricanes fans, knows how his game is. In terms of the forward core, I mean, it's honestly not a bad forward group. Like you said, Braden Shen's been there for a while. Dylan Holloway, like I said, was just in the Cup final with Edmonton. Bruce Navich has been someone who's really been lighting up for the Rangers and the Blues in his career. Jake Neighbors is not someone to overlook. And, of course, Jordan Kyrou, a really good goal scorer along with Robert Thomas and, Brandon Saad. He's been there with the Blackhawks, done it with the Blue Jackets, and, of course, with the Blues as well. And he's someone who's, known to put pucks on the net as well. And even Radek Foska, too, even, coming over from the Dallas Stars. You're kind of curious to see what, Topachenko and Kingsbury Kapanen can do for the Blues. And, Matthew Joseph, play for the Ottawa Senators. Another guy who could put pucks on net as well. It's just, is it consistent? It remains to be seen. But overall, it's a Blues team that I would not really want to overlook going into this game. I don't think there's really any game you can overlook anymore, especially in the AHL. There's no gimme nights anymore in this league. It's basically anyone get to beat anyone. But I do have a good feeling for the Blues game. I do think the Hurricanes are going to win this one as well. So I think starting out for this 6-game road trip, I think we're going to see back-to-back wins, and that's going to be the Hurricanes going into a 3-game winning streak before they go up into Western Canada. So Friday night, I got the Hurricanes beating the Pittsburgh Penguins, and then on Saturday, I got them beating the St. Louis Blues. And yes, even though it's on a second half of a back-to-back with travel Friday night after Pittsburgh, I do think we're going to be seeing the Carolina Hurricanes on a 3-game winning streak coming out of Saturday against the back-to-back and setting themselves up really good to be 3-1 after 4 games into the season. So it'll be very interesting to see how that works out. And if it's not been said yet, this Blues game is at 7 p.m. Eastern, and that's also going to be on Bally Sports. And like I said, it's also going to be on 99.9 The Fan. But let me know in the comments what you think. How do you feel about the Hurricanes going into the Pittsburgh Penguins in the St. Louis Blues game as well? Drop me your predictions. Do you think they're going to win both? Do you think they're going to split? Who do you think who are the first goal scorers going to be? Let me know who you think is going to score those first goals for the Carolina Hurricanes and the Pittsburgh Penguins in the St. Louis Blues game. But that will wrap up a Friday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Thank you to everyone for listening and making this your first podcast of the day. But also make sure for your second listen, to find Locked On Fantasy Hockey, become a fantasy hockey expert, and get all the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Find Locked On Fantasy Hockey on YouTube and wherever you can listen to podcasts. If you want to keep up with me and everything that's going on with the Carolina Hurricanes and my coverage of them and the Chicago Wolves, go to thehockeywriters.com, or you can click the link in my bio where you can find all those articles that goes over the Carolina Hurricanes and, of course, the Chicago Wolves weekly that will be starting up very, very soon. There are other links to my other podcasts, the Search Cast, but you can look those up on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. For this podcast, there are links to listen to all podcast platforms, or just go search Locked On Hurricanes. You will find it. Drop a 5-star rating and review, because if you do, I might just read it on the show. On YouTube, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss the show. Hit the thumbs up button. Let me know if you like the episode as well. Share with all other Caniacs who become everydayers just like you, because we want to keep the show growing. We are at 1,010 subscribers. We want to keep bumping that up. Let's get to 2,000, 5,000. Let's just keep this thing rolling. So make sure to share with all of them, because they become everydayers just like you. I hope everyone has a great Friday. Hope everyone enjoys watching the Pittsburgh game and also the game against the St. Louis Blues on Saturday. Hope everyone has a great weekend. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.